Joining me today is a wonderful woman that I truly admire and in many ways I look up to, Sister Zai, who is a storyteller, educator, and curator. And today we're going to talk about her love of literature, African literature, not just any, but African. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dorcas. You know I love being here with you.
I know.
I love any opportunity to hang out with you. So I'm just really honored that you invited me to come along today and talk about a subject that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. I can't wait to delve in. And you know, with that little bit said, for those who don't know you, not sure where they've been, can you just tell us a little bit about, you know, just about yourself and the work that you do, and also your love for the African literature?
So I am, like you said, I'm a storyteller. So I started out in 2010, 2011, performing, writing my own poetry. I started a women's storytelling collective and was specifically for Black women. I started with Southern African women, and we were writing about issues that weren't really spoken about, but that were important to us in our community. And so that was kind of like, for me, my entrance into Melbourne's literary scene, which is huge. So as we know, Melbourne is a UNESCO City of Literature. And 2008, 2009, 10 is about the time when Melbourne became a UNESCO City of Literature. So like my entrance into actually being a performer and really stepping out and saying, okay, I'm going to be a professional in this space, coincided with the birth of the UNESCO City of Literature status. But I think as a person of African origin, so I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. I was raised at a time when the Zimbabwe International Book Fair was the biggest thing on the continent. You know, so like I was just in that space in high school, aspirations of being a writer. We were being encouraged to submit our short stories to the book fair prize. You know, we had people being announced as winners of that prize. Never me, ever so salty still. Love my friends who got those prizes though.
Good on y'all, but still.
Thank you for inspiring me. I'm still here. I'm still here doing my thing. So I was raised in all of that, you know, so very much aware of writers from all over the African continent, from all over the African diaspora coming into Zimbabwe during that time in October, and really just delving into topics that were very important for African writers. So, and you know, being Zimbabwe at the time, like in the 90s, of course, we were hosts, and in the 80s, we were hosts to, you know, freedom fighters from South Africa, from Angola, from Namibia, folks who were on the front lines in Kenya as well. And so a lot of that work was also done through literature. So they were at school with me. Some of their children were at school with me. Some of your mates, friends are like writers or academics. And so that's just kind of like that's the atmosphere, that's the environment.
And you feed off that as you go. You can't help
normal.
it.
It's just like, of course we're going to have this really intellectual discussion about African literature or like social topics or issues on the African continent. Of course we're going to have this discussion. So, of course, though, I was studying at a very conservative, I don't know if I should say that out loud.
Well, it depends who's watching.
I don't want to out anybody. But I mean, it's just the nature of it. It was a very conservative, very good girls' school, all girls' school, and we were studying from the canon because we were studying towards our A-level exams, which were all written in you know, Oxford, Cambridge. So it was Shakespeare, and it was Chaucer, and it was T.S. Eliot, and so forth. So it was very much the canon, you know, so like white men.
White men decided that this is it.
This is it.
That was that at the time.
And that's what you studied. And I love all that. Like, I love Shakespeare. I was like in the amateur Shakespeare company. I was playing all the roles, you know, working my Black, beautiful self on that stage, you know. And that was great. But then at some point in time, I was like, I'm sort of tired of writing or performing other people's stories. I want to perform my own stories now. Which then brought me to the space of, hang on a second, what are my stories?
Where are they?
What and how do I communicate in this medium of the written word, the written word in English? How do I communicate in this? I don't come from a place that has snow. I'm sure we've all listened to Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's
Oh, yes.
TEDx, and I was just like,
Yeah.
when I heard that, I was like, that's my life.
Okay.
So, you know, it's like, what's my story? So I'm watching this TEDx talk by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie,
Yeah.
and, you know, where she talks about the danger of the single story.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's my life.
That's my life. That's my story.
Yeah.
And this was around 2010
Yeah.
as well. So everything was happening at about the same time. The website, you know, Africa is not a country, was starting to form. So there were a lot of people on the continent and outside the continent who were really starting to turn their minds and
Yeah.
their hearts and their sole purpose to figuring out, well, how do we tell our own stories?
Yeah.
Now, I had just finished university,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I didn't study creative writing.
No.
I had always been in amateur, you know, theater. I guess you could call it amateur theater, or, you know, French festival shows or things. I always put my hand up for that sort of stuff, and I
Yeah.
loved it. But to me, it was a hobby in a
Yeah.
way. It wasn't something that I necessarily took very seriously in terms of a profession, because I hadn't
Yeah.
been able to see. I mean, I'd seen stuff in Zim, but I guess like within my own family, like was very much lawyer, accountant, doctor.
Professional.
Like
That was
that's the
professional.
professional. You know what I mean?
Nothing else can be professional. And you know, we all know these stories too well.
It's a professional thing, but it's kind of like it's on the side thing.
Yeah,
It's on a
yeah.
this is what I do 24/7. Like this is actually what I do 24/7.
Yeah. Right,
Which
right.
I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
This is my profession, people.
I can't believe I did
Yeah,
this.
so
You
good,
know?
so good.
So I had studied international development and law,
Mm-hmm.
right? And international development is an interesting space to be in when you read the stories that are written about Africa, or the lens through which
Yeah.
Africa is kind of shown to the world. We tend to have a very skewed image,
Of course.
which Chimamanda's already gone through in her
Yeah,
TEDx.
she's like-
you know, she covered that nicely for us, you know. But sitting in that class and knowing that the only way that I could pass was by repeating those stereotypes, which weren't about people out there. It's about my family, yo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what the hell? And you're like, you want me to do this?
It's like
Yeah.
you're asking me to diss myself in order to get a good
I
grade.
know. But how is that? That's insane,
It's
right?
wrong.
It's so wrong on
It's
so many
actually
levels.
wrong.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and I think by reading people like Bell Hooks and people who are also part of that, I mean, I'm not a first generation, I'm the second generation to go to university in my family, but people who are some of those first pioneering generations from colonized spaces to go into Western education systems, what you actually go through in there emotionally, we don't discuss that enough.
No.
And how devastating it can actually be.
Yeah.
You know, like we're hearing it now, people who've gone to film school and all this sort of stuff. Can you play that a little blacker?
And
Can
you're
you
like,
write that a little more African?
you know what I mean? And you're like, you carry that trauma with you, and then you're not taught how to really translate your feelings and your emotions and your stories creatively.
Yes.
Instead, there's these parameters that if you don't touch them, you're gonna fail.
Yes.
It's like, oh no, that's a bit too. Where's this character from? Like, oh,
Yes.
they don't sound, enough of that. And you're like, but I know people like that. Like that could be me. But they're like, well, in this space, we're not gonna take that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is this is where the challenge comes when you are starting out to tell your own stories. Well, what framework am I using? What lens am I using? You're literally building everything up from what? And this is where you have to start. Like, so I was like, okay, what do they say? What's the first rule of writing? If you're stuck, go read a writer who has done what you want to do.
Yeah.
And read like a writer. You don't read like a reader, because it's reading like a reader.
There's different ways. Yeah, you can read the story and enjoy it and put
Exactly.
it away, but you can go in there
And look
from
at
the
grammar, the
author's
syntax,
everything.
like break it all down.
Yeah.
Like, how exactly do they?
Yeah.
What's the structure
Yeah,
of this?
and
actual
also
story?
look at the author's personal story. Why did they write this story? Because that's
Exactly.
part of the you know, the
and so
process.
you just find me like on YouTube checking out
You know.
people's interviews, like
Yeah.
at writers festivals or at universities, or you
Yeah.
know, where they're actually talking about their work or they're talking about issues that are close to their work.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm starting to get a clearer and a better understanding of why they wrote that particular story.
Yeah.
And then I started getting a clearer understanding of why and how I could bring in my studies in international development
Yeah.
and law.
Yeah.
Because I
Into
think law. So I know, right? I was just like, well, you know, after that little 10-year foray into
Oh.
university, I'm just gonna go on the stage and recite poetry to the people.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. I'm gonna tell you some words.
And I think it just sounded like really sort
Yeah.
of a bit shocking.
Yeah,
For most
yeah.
people, it's like, no, you need to go to a corporate law firm and like this is why. The reason why it was important for me is because I realized that the world as we know it, and we're at a point now. It's really interesting because I was thinking this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But we're at a point now where I think like everybody has starting to think the same thing. Not the same thing, but similar.
Similar, like along the same path.
We need to change.
Yeah.
It's not working.
It's not working.
It's
That's
not
right.
working.
That's
and I was
right.
like, and I was of the belief, and this is actually through my studies, right, in international development, because I was always from a grassroots perspective, and also in law because I chose like a human rights angle, and of course the human rights approach to development was you have to have programs that have been developed by, implemented by.
Yeah.
The people who are supposed to benefit from it. So my whole mind was like, okay, great, you're talking the talk, but how do we walk the walk?
Yeah.
How do we actually walk the walk?
Yeah.
And I was actually lucky enough that during my international development course, I did an honors in international development.
Yeah.
One of my lecturers said to me, you need to look at African literature to fill the gap
There you go.
in knowledge.
That
where
was
you
the
can't-
moment.
And that was the moment I started reading.
Cool. And that's us. We're going to go read some books. See ya.